All right. Hello. Welcome to another Beyond All Reason on the fly replay analysis. I'm your host, Zateo, and today we're going to take a look at Lilan Layla as they play the fronts on White Fire. This must be kind of a hot replay. We have two submissions on it. I'll be covering the second one later today. So look for that one if you want a second perspective on this particular match. In this replay for Layla, we're going to be looking at the first like 30 minutes or so, just to see what we can improve. I'm trying to keep these a little bit shorter, just to not bog down the players with too much information. So let's get into it. We'll put this on, we'll put that on. Let's see, that's the right view. Wait, is it showing them? No, okay. Or is it? I think it is. Okay, let's fix that. All right, there we go. Okay, Lilan Layla, let's see what's going on. All right, 3 mechs, standard opener. Speed up a little bit. All right, it's like a solar into wind into solar. You could actually get away, this is kind of nitpicky, but you can get away with just 2 solars and then the lab, and they'll get your lab just slightly faster so that you can start producing and using some build power to crank out like another con, or if you want to scout or whatever. And then afterwards, you know, you'd want to add on a couple wins after that. It just, you know, it just makes it slightly faster, but doing it this way gives you a little bit more energy, you know, to work with. So I mean, it's not like it's bad opening like this. This construction turret, we'll say, is a little bit early. I would say don't build this construction, or I'm sorry, not construction turret, this light laser tower. I would say hold off on that until your commander moves out. Mainly because your commander can already protect this entire area as it is, so it's not really necessary. Alright, so a couple scouts coming out, chasing away the red scouts. Claiming 1, let's see, that's 5 scouts. Okay, 5 scouts in the constructor, assisting the constructor. Alright, energy's getting low. That's it. Anytime it completely runs out, like, you know, if you're trying to boost something, it's not going to boost properly, or it's not going to boost like 100%. And I would suggest maybe adding a wind or something between that. On this map, it is quite good wind. A minimum of 2, it kind of makes sense to get like a, you know, some solar, but I would say 3 is a little bit much, and that's just mainly because it's so metal expensive to get solars. I would prefer maybe some winds here, but you know, it kind of depends on how bad the wind is. You know, the wind's starting to go up now again. Just know if you're going to do winds, you do need to build a lot of them, so you know, having solar means you're going to get that energy faster. Alright, killing some more scouts. First constructor, grabbing some mexes. Glad to see it. It's always very good to you know, get those working on some mexes ASAP so you can keep increasing your metal so you can produce more units. Lots of idle time here. Okay, so it looks like Laughing's talking to you, so I suppose you're kind of dealing with that. But yeah, that's kind of a long time to be idle right there. Alright, so now boosting the lab, getting your con outs. So I'm noticing that your constructors, as they come out, go to the waypoint. That's, you know, that's something you can do. You know, that's it's like a preference thing, but you can go to settings, go to I believe it's game. Yeah, game, and then factory guard. And if you turn this on, then the constructors coming out will automatically assist the lab instead of going to the rally point. And again, that's a preference thing, but I would recommend it if you have trouble with idle cons, or you know, it just keeps them busy, you know, before you're able to get to them. And then also, like, anytime you can set longer queues, it's going to be good to do that as well, just to be able to spend that time doing it now instead of having to do it on the fly and then having some like idle time here and there, because again, you have some idle time here as well, and you know, it's not like a gigantic deal, but you know, these little bits of time do add up. So I'd recommend trying to set longer queues to grab some more mexes and stuff. And then that'll hopefully give you some more time to micro as well when it comes time to do that. Alright, so pushing up, commander, got some incisors out. So grab the mexes. It looks like, yeah, you gave that Mex to Laughing because they asked for it. I'm not 100% sure if this is necessarily theirs. Um, I don't feel like it's a bad call saying that it's yours, just because like you only have so many Mexes in this position, and so the more that that they take away from you, the harder it is going to be for you. So I guess I just hope that Laughing can use it, to their advantage and do something with it. All right, so here I'm seeing that your energy is a bit low again. Wind is actually high right now, so that's something you want to fix ASAP. Idle Con again. Yeah, so usually this con here will be producing energy, and I don't know if that's like your plan, but if it is, then it's just a little bit late, and you're kind of suffering a little bit for it as you're stalling just slightly. All right, so now they're building it. So yeah, I mean, so far I'm just seeing like little bits of time where you're busy doing something else, and some things just kind of stop functioning. So trying to remedy that is kind of a big deal in general. Not that like all these little things kind of just add up to a bigger deal. All right, so here you're doing a little light poking. Your metal and energy are quite low. It's not a bad thing. Not a bad thing to have metal low. As you add on some more energy. I missed a little bit of an engagement there, but yeah, you went in there with your incisors, lost them unfortunately. Oof. That was a hefty D-gun. It sucks to lose units this early on, especially to D-gun, because you're not killing anything with them if that happens. Slow down just slightly. Yeah, pounders and medium tanks are, you gotta be careful around a commander. Because yeah, just the short range and because of the maneuverability of vehicles, like it's really easy to get D-gunned if you get too close. And players at this level, and this, looking at the lobby, this is a very high level lobby. So you can expect them to do some nice D-guns, given the chance. Alright, so poking lightly at Mighty Turtle. Fortunately, they have these shurikens out, and you're going to get stunned, so that means you're probably going to lose these units here. You got away with 2 of them. So far, some reasonable stuff at the front here. I would say, yeah, cap this Mex as much as you can. Like, even if you lose it, just cap it again, because it does not take long for them to pay off, so I'd recommend just getting them whenever you can. Alright, so you're still producing some medium tanks. Oh, I missed how you built this construction chart, but looking at how many cons that you have out here, you probably slow built it with 1 while the lab was idling units. That's kind of one style, which, it's not like a terrible style or anything like that, but I feel like there's a slightly better style, or maybe this is just me being biased, but I prefer doing something like producing a couple extra construction vehicles and just have them assist the lab. And then, as your metal grows and your energy grows, it adds it all on slowly. So you kind of use up your resources, like at the pace that you're supposed to, or at a pace where it gets units out quickly, and you're adding on build power and the resources and stuff. And then as, at a certain point, once you have say 3 or 4 construction guys assisting the lab, or maybe 2 or 3 assisting the lab and 1 doing wind, I guess. And if your metal still rises, then I would say it's a good time to get this construction turret, because then they can boost it out really quickly, and then go back to assisting the lab. And just doing it that way, it costs a little bit more metal to have those constructors, but then those constructors can also be used to assist things, and add on more economy and stuff like that. It's just a way to grow your economy while producing units, because you're growing it nice and evenly but slower, instead of adding a lot of build power on at once with a construction turret. And I believe that's probably why you ran out of metal so quickly all of a sudden, metal and energy. And so it's like the construction turret comes out at that time, but then while it's going up, because it's being produced slowly, units are coming out of the factory very slowly, and then once the construction turret is up, now you have more build power than you can really handle, and then construction goes at a good pace, but then you run out of resources and it slows down anyways. So I guess to me, I feel like having the cons out is a nice little difference. But of course, that's more of a stylistic thing, and I see plenty of people do this. So like it's fine, not a big deal. Alright, so you're eating some of the metal out here, very good. Even poking around a little bit, this is nice. Yeah, you gotta be careful with medium tanks because of that D-gun, but looks like you did a nice job there. As this mex is still not capped, so that's kind of a big deal. 2 metal per second, adds up over time. Alright, so you got some lashers out. Poking away. Got some nice support from Ratch here. Get him. Man, medium tanks just really do not deal that much damage. It takes a while to actually kill something. But they can take so much damage that it's really nice to have them, because then they can come back and repair. Which, at this point when they start getting this low, I'd highly recommend just pulling them back. This feels a little bit too aggressive, because pushing up this hill is very slow, and it's very easy to lose tanks as you do that. Okay, so you do end up getting out of there and you start repairing. Okay, so that's good. I'm glad to see that. One of the things that you can do that might help you out a little bit is if you get one of those extra constructors that I was talking about, you can get them to the front line, add on a construction turret at the fronts to help repair these. So anytime you get something injured, you can pull them out, or at least, so what I generally do, and not that you have to do this or anything like that, but just as a suggestion, is I'll get my con up here, build a turret, or maybe even a couple of turrets depending on how metal rich I am, and any injured unit during the battle, will take out of the auto group. So you do that with control tilde, and you send them back to that place where all the repair turrets are, or construction turrets are, and then it gets repaired. And then you can still keep fighting with your army, and after it gets repaired, you can just add it back to the auto group, or add it back to the control group. Now it gets a little bit messy doing that, because if you add it back to the auto group, then all the say it's a bunch of medium tanks getting repaired, and say some of them are half done, are still damaged, and some of them are fully damaged. You kind of need to wait for all of them to be repaired, because setting them back to the auto group will add all the tanks to the auto group. So it's like you have to kind of reset all your, if you took anybody out of the auto group and put them on a different number, you have to reset all that. But yeah, just it's a way to help repair some of your tanks up, which I think is one of the main strengths of medium tanks. But yeah, going up this hill is very hard, and it's very easy to just leave wrecks on this hill as your units go up. And when that happens, basically that's a lot of metal that they're going to get, because their base is right here. So just something to be wary of. I'm also seeing that you have a T2 con. I'm curious to know if you bought it or if you were given it. Alright, looks like Neza just gave it to you. It was Neza, right? Yeah, Neza. So yeah, it's no, that's really nice of him to just give it to you. Definitely at a pretty good time. It's pretty early in the game still, so that's nice. One thing I'll say here, looking at this, is since you're so low on metal, and you're trying to get these mexes, I would say definitely try to reclaim things in your base to get your metal back from those things, and then you can get these mexes upgraded faster. And it's good to do that just in general, but it's especially important for when you're getting these T2 mexes. And the reason is you want to get them as quickly as possible because they give you 4 times the amount of metal, right? So, you know, you just want to get them sooner so that you can start benefiting from that huge benefit faster. So I'm looking at your base here, and I'm looking at like what can be reclaimed here. Now, I would say first and foremost, anytime your lab is not being used, especially the lower tier labs, reclaim it. Get rid of this ASAP when you're trying to get mexes, because that'll just give you that 600. Actually, for vehicles, isn't it? It's like, yeah, it's 720 for a core vehicle lab. You know, so that's 720 metal that could potentially be upgrading your mexes faster. And this is kind of where the additional build power comes in, you know, from having this con turret and having some extra construction vehicles around that can just kind of, you know, follow the you know, T2 bot around and just upgrade stuff. The other things that you can get rid of, although, well, so you can get rid of these solars. It's something that I'd highly recommend, like, going for. I would say here your energy isn't quite high enough to get rid of them, but, you know, as you add on more winds, you know, if you get a fusion, you can start, you know, getting these. You know, this map isn't, you know, doesn't have the highest wind in the world, so I mean, you know, it's okay to leave them for now, but yeah, eventually you want to get rid of those. Yeah, so you have a nice bit of guys here to defend. You don't really need to make units right now, so that's, you know, another important thing to check when you get rid of the lab. You know, like how necessary is it to keep making units, and how much can you greed for something else, or for your stuff. But yeah, if you do get rid of this lab and have maybe just a touch more build power, maybe like one more construction vehicle or something, like you can actually upgrade these really quickly. All right, so we're just hanging back. That's good. You know, as you're upgrading your mexes and stuff, you don't really want to produce units or be in a position where you have to build units, so it's good that you're chilling for a minute. And especially since you're up against hounds now at this point. Unfortunately, Neza did not give you a console, so you can't do the hound thing at the moment, but... Okay, so you're going for storage. What are you doing with the storage? Let's see what you build here. Oh, nothing quite yet. I'd say usually, so I'd say there's usually two times you want to get a storage. You know, you want a storage because, you know, say wind is very dynamic and changes a lot, you know, and it's good to have a storage to just kind of spread that out, so that when it's low, when the wind speed is low, you still have energy from earlier when the wind speed was high to use while it's low. The only other time to get it would be if you're trying to afford, you know, like a big energy building or something like that, or a big thing, and you don't really have the energy for it, or you don't really have the energy income for it, but if you have enough storage, then you can just store the energy and build the thing. So I don't know if this is entirely necessary here at the moment, but it kind of depends on what you do with that. Looks like red's pushing the hounds pretty aggressively. There's some yellow and orange ones as well. So this is a little bit tricky here. Oh, okay, so they're all convening onto you a little bit. Your ally next to you is doing a good job just like reinforcing your side here, you know, dealing with that. So you pulled back, wisely so. Yeah, so I'd say here you're getting a little too, like you're looking and dealing with this battle a lot. And so these guys are now idle, because there was nothing else queued up. And your lab's idle too. Which, you know, if they're on hounds, like, and they have this many of them, like, it's reasonable to just get rid of the lab. You know, like, basically, you know, you want to get those T2 units out to start dealing with this. Because T1 units, like T1 tanks especially, are not going to deal with this very well. I would say if you had like, um, I mean, I guess you could do incisors, but either way, you need a lot more build power to actually contest this because if you're gonna deal with this with incisors, you need like a lot of them, and they can kind of just run away. So I mean, it's not really a counter or anything like that. It'll just be something to push them back once in a while. So what you really want to do is get rid of the lab. You've upgraded your mexes, your 3 mexes here, which gives you a reasonable amount of metal coming in. But now your energy is a bit low for T2 economy or for T2 units. So ideally, you kind of want to grab a fusion ASAP, but given that you're pushed back, you could just get a lab and then start producing something cheaper. Cheaper like a Mauser or Quaker if you're Cortex, depending on which lab you get. Solid push. Neza's here with some hounds, so like it's looking okay. Nice D gun there. But yeah, that's pretty typical to lose a commander in that kind of position. And they just back off. So this is actually a lot of metal just sitting here now. Alright, so you start reclaiming it. Alright, you start the T2 lab. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's a challenging thing. I think I'm seeing out of this replay, I'm mostly seeing like you're getting a little bit tunnel visioned on the micro part, and it's hard because you have to kind of remember to do both. You have to like look back at your base and stuff. But I will say, the more what's it called? The more queues, the longer the queues that you have for your constructors, the better. And usually you get rid of this at this point, for sure. But your metal is kind of stockpiled because of that idle time, so it's kind of like you don't need the metal right now. That's kind of rough. Okay, so you're getting some Jags. Let's see, Jags against Hounds. They don't usually do so well against Hounds, but we'll see what actually goes down here. Normally I'd recommend Mausers here. Mauser may be able to just like hold them back. I mean, Jaguars are good for these grunts, great for pawns and stuff like that, so I mean, I don't really know what's out there. I mean, given that green has, these hounds out here, that it's just Hound City because of the console thing. It kind of does make sense to get something like Jags because then you can cover their weakness. Yeah, you definitely need some more build power. You definitely need your energy going up. Okay, so you're getting this Pitbull first. Let's see, does this one reach it? No. Okay. Yeah, I feel like this guy, could be doing something. There we go. Yeah, I'd definitely say that your energy is good enough that you could put down a fusion. And I would recommend a fusion over doing advanced solars. Basically, advanced solars are just very inefficient in terms of metal cost, and even in terms of build time, they take a while, and they take up a lot of space, and to get enough energy from advanced solars, you kind of need quite a bit of them. Whereas if you put down a fusion, the fusion will just solve your energy needs temporarily, until you increase your economy, and just get you there a little bit faster, type of thing. So I don't really recommend advanced solars here. Now, especially since you have a T2 con. Like, you could be assisting this with your constructor, get it up faster, and then with that, you're feeling a little bit safer because you have it, and then you could just go for that fusion. And if you're going to go for a fusion, you could definitely eat, this vehicle lab, eat your solars, as you need energy. And if your metal was really low, you could put down a metal storage and eat this vehicle T2 lab, and just so that you can build that fusion a lot faster. And of course, with that, you're going to need a little bit more build power. But that's a way to get the stuff faster. Is like, you know, take the metal out of the things that are inefficient and not doing anything, and put it into the thing that, you know, you want as soon as possible, or the thing that's going to be a little bit more efficient. Because yeah, basic solars are by far the least efficient form of energy production. Advanced solar is actually not too far behind it. It's quite inefficient. It just takes a while to build as well. Um, so you added on some more winds. Wind is actually not too bad. Like, wind is better than advanced solar here. I'll share with you a chart that I've made on the energy production. It's still like a work in progress, so it's not like, I don't know, I'm just trying to clean it up so it looks a little nicer and have people check the math and stuff. But you know, generally it should give you a sense of what's good and at what time for any map. Let's see. Alright, so now you're eating the lab as your metal's starting to decrease. You have space for it now, so that makes sense. More con turrets, building winds. Okay, so this, yeah, this is looking good. So it seems like, yeah, when your focus is on stuff, like, it is getting done. Like, it seems like you know the things in a lot of these cases. It's just like little bits of idle time kind of hurt. There is an idle selection, by the way. Where is it? Interface? Yeah, idle builders. So in interface, if you go to idle builders and click that on, your idle builders will show up at the bottom. And that's just a visual thing. I believe anytime that it's idle, you could use the hotkeys for it, which I forget what it is on grid. I'm sorry, I used like when I've been using custom hotkeys for a long time now, and you know, so I have it slightly differently. I know on defaults, or at least I believe it's Control B for idle constructors. I actually very rarely use the hotkey. I generally just click at the bottom, which is not exactly ideal. But yeah, there's a hotkey. Yeah, I think it's Control B. For grid, it might be Tab. Actually, I could probably just check, huh? Let's see, grid. Oh, that's select commander. Let's see, control, select idle. Oh no, that's idle transports. Oh, it's control tab, I guess. That's interesting. And then for defaults, yeah, it's control B for on defaults. That should work for you. But yeah, you can just hit those buttons and then select the next idle builder in the list. Factories are also considered idle builders, by the way, so if you have an idle factory, it'll also cycle to that. Just FYI. Alright, so you have some presence here. Some Mausers to back it up. I'm glad to see that you got some Mausers with that. Let's see, where's your bot doing? Your T2. Oh, okay, so your T2 went on to upgrade some mexes. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, usually I recommend after the first 3 upgrades on your mexes to get a fusion. The only time you wouldn't is if you already have like a ton of energy coming in from something like a gigantic wind farm. You know, so it kind of depends on your, you know, the timing in which you get the T2 and whatnot. But yeah, usually you want like, you know, a little bit closer to, you know, like, between like 1500 and 2000, I would say is like a really good amount of energy for T2. But it, you know, of course, it depends on how much metal you're getting in as well. And you are a little bit more metal starved in this position on this map, so I mean, it'd probably be a bit less than that to start producing like heavier T2 stuff like bulls and, you know, starlights and stuff like that. Starlights especially take some extra energy, so if you're gonna go starlight, maybe like an extra storage, along with maybe an extra fusion, because they are very well. Bulls and starlights, yeah, both very energy expensive to build. Starlights take some extra energy to shoot. It's 100 energy per shot, which is pretty significant. So that's why I recommend that storage in that position. Some pop-ups are doing some damage here. Yeah, so here's the Mausers are gonna come in clutch here. Alright, what is your T2 gonna do now? Yeah. So one of the things I'll say here too is, you know, so I'm noticing you move your constructor back here to keep him safe, and that perfectly good. You know, that makes sense. But ideally, you want all your builders to be doing something. You know, in most cases, especially when it's the T2 builder. So, you know, there's kind of a thing I like to talk about, I guess, where it's sort of like, I like to consider, like, do you keep producing units or do you produce economy? And I think it's important to like put all your resources and build power into one or the other and try to figure out what you actually need. In this position, I'd say you got enough to hold it. You have enough to potentially take some of this stuff out too. But also, after you push on this position, there's the ramp here, and then even if you get up the ramp, then you got this cliff to deal with. You know, so there really isn't great push potential just because of the natural formation, or the natural, you know, the terrain here, I should say. You know, so I would actually consider more, I guess, going towards that greedy eco side of things, especially since you don't quite have a fusion yet. You could get that fusion and even convert some of it to metal a little bit faster here, because you're definitely in a spot where you can for sure hold even without your ally's help. Like if your ally needed to go up and help purple up here, you'd still be fine. You know, given, you know, looking at this now, obviously if red also pushes with orange at you, you'd be in a little bit of trouble, but then you have your ally could swing over to you instead if they go away. So or, you know, this ally Ratch could help you, and which they've been doing this entire time, is they've been really good about, you know, assisting you when need be. So at this point you can pretty much count on their help. So yeah, I highly recommend getting the fusion at this point in the game. Oh, also I wanted to talk about this really quick. So it's good that you added this on to get the res bots out. You know, they can repair, they can, you know, eat the Rex, they can resurrect and all that. But anytime that you're done using the lab, I would say reclaim it so that you can get the other stuff faster. So yeah, you know, this is exactly what you're doing. It's exactly what I was talking about. Let's see. Yeah, it's going up reasonably fast. You could get a little bit more build power, which you are. And now that your metal's drained, I would consider eating this again to get that metal back for that fusion. Put it into the fusion. So yeah, 600 or whatever it is, you know, that is a significant amount towards the fusion. You know, and towards the T2 stuff as well, the T2 converters here. Oh, I missed it, I apologize. I assume that you pushed up here a bit. You know, you guys took this stuff out. Ah, man, I missed a lot over here. Let's see what's up here. Yeah, so I think there was a lab up here that you destroyed with your ally. You guys did a nice job of that. But also notes that your units can't really fire on this position very easily. I'm not sure if Mausers can shoot up that cliff or not. But yeah, if you're gonna be aggressive, like I would say, if you're gonna be aggressive, don't. You know, I would. Well, I mean, it's like you do want this fusion though. So I would say get the fusion first, then be aggressive. You know, and that way you have the units to defend if necessary. You know, so right now there's kind of a big hole here, which, you know, isn't being too exploited. Red's probably busy doing some eco for themselves, and then also I guess pushing on this side. You know, so given that it's okay, you know, but it does leave this big open area here. You know, so just be careful, because that means, you know, the push basically, you know, anytime you push up a position, it's really hard to just like turn around and go back. You know, it's kind of like you need to push in there, and you kind of, you know, when you're not producing units and you're producing, you know, like a fusion or an aphis or something like that, you want to have at least something out there. So losing all your units is not ideal here, even if you do get some damage. Now, as it stands, like, it looks like this is going to work out just fine. And yeah, these are arbiters, so I mean, I guess, or not arbiters, ambassadors. You know, so there isn't like a gigantic push potential from red here as it is. But in some cases, like, that can happen where you push up here, lose the units, and then this player pushes down and crushes you. You know, and it all had to do with you losing the units up there. Or losing units up there while also not producing units. But yeah, unfortunately your ally loses a bunch of snipers up there, and all that. Alright, so here you're producing once again. I suppose there is an air player for both of you guys. I was gonna say, like, since you do see fighters around, you might want to build an AA turret or something. Okay, you actually have some shredders back here, so that's good. Don't mind me. All right, going for some more fusion. Nice. Jaguar's doing some work on these grunts. Yeah. Well, I don't mind this, because you're just pushing up here, checking things out. You know, Jaguars are pretty fast, so like they can get away if necessary. Wow, look at all these res bots. A lot of res bots. Yeah, the res bot spam. But yeah, Razorback, gotta get the heck out of there. Yeah, so here I'd be looking towards maybe producing a Starlight or two for the Razorback. Maybe even 3. Because yeah, Razorback's going to do quite nicely against most things on T2 or T1. So yeah, I'm noticing that you're doing a lot of like stopping unit production when you're like grabbing these fusions, and that's excellent. You want to do that. You know, that way you can spend more of that metal on the fusions. But since your metal keeps growing, and I don't know if that's a symptom of just stuff being idle at you know, certain times, but anytime your metal starts growing, you want to take a look at your base and look at what else can you build. Now obviously, you know, if it's you know, there is such a thing as too much at once, for sure. You know, but usually that means, you know, either sorry, let me rephrase. When your metal starts rising, that usually means more build power. If your metal's rising solely because you're producing, you know, something like a fusion and cutting units production, you know, you can add on more build power, or you could decide like, oh, I can actually afford, you know, producing units while making this fusion, and that way you at least have some stuff coming out and you're using your metal, just in case something big happens. Let's see, it looks like you're doing another fusion. Yeah, so this is all pretty reasonable if you're trying to constantly make units. You know, at this point, fusions, you know, after you get 1 or 2, you know, you can really start affording unit production while also adding on some more. Let's see, bulls added to the mix. Yeah, this is quite nice to keep catching these grunts out here. But yeah, ambassadors would really help you out if you're trying to actually push this location. Yeah, ambassadors, and then I see that they have Juno, so I can understand you not getting the jammer and the radar. Oh, you do get in. Oh, can you get this? Nope. Unfortunately, you get reclaimed right before it dies. That would have been a nice thing to be able to grab there. Alright, so mostly bulls coming out at this point. Let's see, where did that Razorback go? I'm not sure if it died. But either way, at this point, I would be looking towards Starlights a little bit more. Let's see. Any plans after this fusion? Not quite yet. Now, by the way, I know you're on T2 economy and you're already, you already got some energy converters and stuff going out. You know, these mexes being capped is still worthwhile. You know, it's not like going to be a huge percentage extra metal coming in or anything like that. But they're so cheap, like at this point, that they're basically free. And, you know, a little bit here, a little bit there, like it's going to add up a bit. So I'd highly recommend taking these constructors and capping these. Let's see. Oh, they are Cortex. I was gonna say if they're Armada, you can do Twilights, and then if you get pushed there, you know, Twilights are gonna keep them alive a lot longer. And then you have the added benefit of the EMP that goes off when it dies. Nice. Take out that Pitbull. I'm not sure what units these are, but they're not firing back, so I think Mighty Turtles just kind of AFK'd them there for a minute. Yeah, so here I'm seeing that you just have a ton of metal coming in. So this is the other thing, is like, since you were producing units and getting a fusion, you know, like you know, it's spending a lot of your metal. But now that you're not producing the fusion and stuff, now your metal's like really growing, especially since the fusion's done and now it's paired with converters. So now you have extra metal coming in. And I would say anytime that you add on like a chunk of metal income, you know, in this case it's like in the form of metal converters, I would try to anticipate it and add on some more build power or something. You know, and that way you can start spending it sooner. And then also at this point you can start getting rid of these advanced solars, because again those are also quite inefficient. And then with the metal being so high, I don't mind you keeping this. You know, once you reach the metal that you have, you know, it's kind of like not a big deal to keep it. It's not like a huge cost. Okay, here's your ambassadors. Now we just need some bulls to help push them up there. Well, at this point there's so many starlights and stuff out that you might want to just do spam instead. Yeah, quite a bit of idle time. By the way, in case you don't know, there's this repeat function that's really nice to have. You know, basically, if repeat is on, it'll just repeat the stuff in your queue, so you don't have to go back and like keep clicking on it. And when you turn that on, you only really need to go back if you want to revise the units that are coming out. You know, just produce the units in the order that you click on them for production. There's also a setting that is that automatically turns factories on auto repeat once it finishes. I believe it's in game here. Yeah, auto repeat here. It's right under the factory guard thing, or switch, I should say. Highly recommend it if you're having trouble continuing to produce units. Now, of course, I think earlier you did that on purpose. And by the way, if you ever want to pause a queue, all you have to do is you know, select the building and hit W. So W will pause the production. It'll, you know, like all the construction turrets and stuff will finish the unit that's currently being produced, but the factory will not start a new one. You know, and that's just a way to pause it if you want to get, you know, another fusion or something like that and put more metal into that. You might notice down here, like I have very few buttons, but there should also be a like a weights button. W is for weights, and that'll do the same thing. It's the pause basically, or I call it pause. Yeah, lots of dots from red, mostly pawns it looks like. So it's good that you have these jaguars around still. Lots of jaguars. Here's some bulls to tank some damage. Yeah, so here you're stopped again. Red spots. Yeah, I mean, so here your income is actually good enough that you could add on some more. I believe you could add on some more con turrets, and you know, you could start producing out of this bot lab, just like producing some spam grunts or something like that. And that'll just make it annoying for the starlights that are over here, or you know, if they get pushed onto you. Or, you know, at this point we don't even really know who the heck's over here, because we haven't seen them in a minute. But yeah, ideally in this position, actually it looks like the orange guy's over here with some grunts. So yeah, having jaguars, you know, and having some you know, a mix of pawns or grunts with it, as well as the ambassadors, you could absolutely push up here now, and start like kind of barraging this base. And, you know, all the jaguars will do quite nicely against these grunts. If red tries to counter with some starlights or something like that, or his own grunts, you also have an answer for that. So, I mean, you're pretty well covered at this point in terms of, you know, types of units. The only issue is, like, you know, if T3 rolls around, then you might be in a little bit of trouble with that army. You know, but if you add on a couple starlights, then you can also get covered that way, and you know, so there's quite a few things to think about. Also, I'm noticing that radar coverage has dipped down quite a bit. Let's see. Oh no, radar does cover up there. Never mind. Scratch that. You have some radar out here. It's just there's just no units, I guess, or it's jammed, I guess. Could be the other thing. Oh, okay, it's jammed. Okay, so you do see that, you're targeting it, very nice. I feel like that should, oh, I guess, oh, that one should have killed it, I think. I think that was a death. Yeah, lots of long range stuff going on. Yeah, so this all feels pretty healthy from them. They have, like, red has a huge spread. I mean, orange is a weakness, I think, but we don't really know what's here. It might be worth asking the air player to send a scout over there who just, like, ping right here. You know, like, air scout, please, or something like that. You know, just to try to see what's over there. But yeah, your economy's at a position where it's like okay, but it's not like fantastic. And I feel like it's going to be hard to really do anything here because of how strong red is in this position. Like your entire army is necessary for sure because you need to stop red from, you know, sending units down this way while your allies push up this way. You know, so that's all working out pretty well. But given that, I think you could probably greed for some stuff. You know, so you can either greed for eco or you can try to push this location. And of course, pushing is going to be a lot more, you know, it's going to be a riskier play for sure. Um, and yeah, if you do that, like I think, like I was saying, I think you have a reasonable composition of units. It's just a little bit weak for, you know, if like a few Razorbacks or something roll up on it, then it might be in a bit of trouble. You know, so adding on a couple Starlights first might be ideal. Oh yeah, so since this is I keep thinking you're fully Cortex, but yeah, since this is an Armada vehicle lab, you could get some Gremlins and use that as vision. So you just get a couple Cloakum, you know, and basically, you know, you don't want to run into the enemy units, but you can, like, you know, send some out here, you know, position them somewhere where there aren't enemy units and just like see what you can, and that way your Mausers and stuff can actually assault this without even, you know, needing radar or anything like that. Gremlins are very, very good. They're actually cheaper than Spybots, I believe. I'm right on that, right? Let's see. Oops, I got on a different view. Yeah, so they're cheaper than Ghosts. Quite a bit cheaper. I mean, Ghosts are pretty cheap, but you know, Spybot or Gremlins are even cheaper when it comes to the straight up cost. So that is definitely an option for some vision here. And then with that, you can just pair, you know, you got all these ambassadors already. You could get a few more Mausers if you're trying to barrage more things. Yeah, even though red spam isn't like getting up to your units, you know, because you have the Jaguars, it still provides vision. You know, through your jamming. And now that, you know, you just got Juno, you lost that jamming, and now you're losing a couple guys out here, unfortunately. But yeah, Gremlins would help, you know, see these targets before they run into line of sight. So, just to pause here really quick, your line of sight ends here, you know, around your units here. But their line of sight, you know, with the, like, say there's a tick here, well, their line of sight's actually like, you know, like it sees quite a bit around the tick or around scouts. You know, so they're actually being able to barrage you because of that. And if you were able to see those scouts a little bit sooner, you could kill them before they see your units, potentially. But yeah, also just, you know, again, those Gremlins would help do that as well. Nice push up here. Fortunately, it's met with a lot of Razorbacks. Spider's trying to get something done as well. Yeah, that's tough. Oh, that's kind of awkward. Wow. Did those spiders really just kill those vanguards that quickly? I mean, I thought they'd win, but like it just seemed extra fast. Yeah, unfortunately, your army got a little bit barraged. Again, it's because of this spam. Yeah, and now at this point, you don't quite have enough like long-range stuff to deal with it. More Resbots coming out. But yeah, if you had a grunt spam of your own, you'd also have that vision from that. Okay, so now you see a sword coming in. There's really nothing you can do about that at the moment, unfortunately. Starlight again would be quite nice here. And you can definitely afford it now that you have 3 fusions. Okay, and you have an Aphis, so that's good. That's even better. Oh, and now it's idle again. I missed the explosion, but it looks like a lot is happening on this right side. Oh, okay, so now these stores are driving towards you. Yeah, definitely stop those Jaguars, get the Starlights out. There's gonna be only so much that these Razorbacks can do. Alright, first one's out already. Now your metal's quite high, so yeah, you it's hard, you know, it gets challenging to you know, it's like you get an Aphis and all of a sudden you get so much more metal because of the converters, you know, that you're all of a sudden just like full up on metal. And this kind of goes back to what I was talking about with anticipation. Like after a fusion gets done, after as you're adding on converters, I'd say it's a good time to add on some build power. And that way the build power is ready, when it's necessary. Um, this build power that you have, this block that you have down here, if you had got rid of these advanced solars, I think the block would be better served here, because then it can, it can hit this advanced advanced fusion. But then once the fusion's done, it can also hit the lab here. Um, especially for the first APHIS, I like to say, to get it, try to put it in a position where, it benefits from a like more centralized build power. So again, if you put them here, then they can assist the lab, and then you could put the fusion, down here or something, a little bit further away. But I think that's especially important for your first APHIS, mostly just, so you get it up faster without having to build like a gigantic block of construction turrets. And in that way, your initial block of construction turrets either can help the lab or it can help the APHIS. You can look at the situation on fronts and say, okay, right now I need units. Let's put all that build power on units. Or you could say, right now I have enough units. I don't want to produce more necessarily because I don't really have push potential, but I have plenty to defend with. Okay, let's put all that build power on economy. So yeah, that's something I try to recommend for your first fusion and your first APHIS especially. If you have a good layout, you could, also get some more fusions in there to assist that as well, and do it the same kind of way. Whoops, I just went off your view by accident. Um, but yeah, being able to spend it on this or that, and then, just helps you get this or that faster. Put it all into one thing, and then, if something happens, say you're building an APHIS and something happens at the front and you just need those units ASAP, well, now you have all that build power, that you can just switch over to the factory. I kind of end up doing what you're doing a little bit too, so I get it. You have some build power just like everywhere around your base, and then it kind of just like assists everything a little bit. It's not that bad to do that, but at the same time, it makes it hard for something like an APHIS. Like all these reach the lab, and that's great. It's better. That's the most important thing, is that they reach the lab, so you can just put on units. But here it's sort of like you have all these build turrets here that are now not doing anything, because there's no good central spot for an APHIS that a lot of these can hit. So it's kind of like you need to put this somewhere, so this kind of makes sense to do it this way if your layout looks like this. So that's why I kind of recommend having more of like a block of centralized build power, and then you can do things like, put your fusions over here with your initial converters, and then you can put your APHIS like down here or something like that. Obviously within range of as many construction turrets as you can. And that way it's just like, because of the centralized build power, they can assist a million different things, depending on what you want. Now, of course, that's means they can chain together. If you just have a block like this in the center of your base, you can lose a lot of build power that way. So it becomes kind of important to make sure you have enough safeguard against that. You could also do something like a, whoops, I went off your view again. You can do kind of like a split up, like so that your construction turrets are in blocks at different spots. So you could do like a small block here, add another small block here, or I'm sorry, maybe that secondary block is more like right here, and then you could build your power over here. Or you can start like, your initial fusion over here, and have these be your first construction turrets. So you put your initial fusion and converters here, and then your APHIS and stuff can go back here, and you can add build power on over here, so that they don't chain with the first group. Um, and then if you need more build power, you can do like another block here for, like at that point, once you start having a fusion and stuff, then all of a sudden, you can support, um, basically always constantly producing units while doing something like building an APHIS or fusion. Um, so then it makes more sense to have some dedicated construction turrets, especially since they become less costly, the more economy you have. Um, anyways, I hope that makes sense. I hope I'm not going too crazy with explaining that either. But yeah, if you do have questions, let me know. Okay, so these Razorbacks doing what they can. EMP goes off. Okay. It's nothing. Oh, that hit something. Alright, so Starlights are out. Great support here. Fortunately, it's not terribly many, and yeah, it's just a little too late at this point. So I'd say as soon as you see a Thor, like even back when I saw that Razorback that was popping in, just having some Starlights, and if it's a Thor, you want like a lot of Starlights, but like, just trying to, I guess switch over to those a little sooner because, if you switch over as they look like they're coming to your base, then all of a sudden you just don't have enough of them by the time they get there. Even something as slow as the Thor, like, it'll take a while to build, basically. Yeah, so I'm actually going to stop the replay here, mostly because I said I was going to stop around 30 minutes, but it's actually 42 minutes in. But yeah, just trying to keep this shorter. I think I gave you a lot of information already, plus you're basically dead at this point, so any other thing to talk about would just be you rebuilding. So I will just cut it here. But just to summarize a little bit, or at least talk about the main points or main things I think you should work on, is first and foremost just the idle time. And I know that's not the easiest thing to work on, but just trying to get in the habits of setting up longer queues so that your units are not sitting there twiddling their thumbs, while you take care of something else. So any extra time that you have, try to think about your constructors and what else you can add to their queues. And a lot of times that goes hand in hand with some of the other things. Like this isn't as much of a big point, but as a minor point, just anticipating your growth in economy and adding on the build power from it. So as you got your first fusion, just adding on a few more build turrets. You get a second fusion, okay, a couple more build turrets. And then especially for the APHIS because it provides so much more economy. Add on like a bunch of a bunch of build power at that time. Just so you can spend it. And so when you look for idle cons and stuff like that, you can say like, well, or when you're looking to add on to your queues, you could say like, okay, my T2 constructor, he's getting an APHIS, like, after he gets the APHIS and he starts adding on construction turrets, you can have one of your builders who is assisting the APHIS, instead of guarding the T2 con, you could tell to directly assist just the APHIS, and then afterwards queue some build power, some con turrets, closer to your base. And then after that, you can, shift queue them to guard the T2 builder again. And that way it's like all timed out where like, after the APHIS is done, the converters are starting to go up and the build power gets added on. But then it also goes back to helping the T2 bot, and the T2 bot after the converters could like, if you wanted to, you could start another APHIS or something like that. And, and that's reasonable thing to do, but at the same time, if you get into trouble, now all of a sudden you have all this build power going towards an APHIS and you kind of want units. And so that's why I recommend doing more of like like fixing up your layout just a little bit, so that you can use that build power to either make units or the APHIS, instead of having dedicated stuff for the APHIS and dedicated stuff for your lab. Um, you just centralize it as much as you can, and then have, if you run out of space, or you're trying not to make them chain, then you have like little groups here and there. Um, and as you get more and more economy, you could even add on like little groups that are dedicated more towards a factory. Um, yeah, that'd be my recommendation for that. To talk about the tactics a little bit, um, I would say like pay attention to the terrain as much as you can. I don't know if I don't know how much you were paying attention to the terrain, but I would say going up this hill is quite hard at times. And it's not the steepest hill, but it's also not the um, shallowest of hills. It's kind of in the middle realm, and so things like medium tanks will have a hard time, and just like things that are slower will have a hard time. But then also like once you get up the hill, it's like, yeah, it's nice to kind of take out this position, but then going up here is kind of, like no matter what, any move like that should be looked at as, I'm throwing away, or I'm giving them the Rex from these units for some damage, for some potential damage. And in a lot of cases, this is a narrow enough spot that you can't really just like turn around and say like, oh, there's so many units there, I'm just gonna go back. Now, obviously, you did that with Thors, or I'm sorry, not Thors, Jaguars. So they are faster. They can kind of do that if they need to. Um, um, but basically, like no matter what, when you send units in like that, it's going to um, cost you those units. You're going to lose the metal for those units, and you're probably going to provide Rex for them to eat. So just try to keep that in mind if you are pushing a position like that. And so what I recommend instead is what I was talking about before with arbiters. Like after you push this position and break it, and I think this is back when red didn't quite have as much as they did back here. Um, but yeah, having some ambassadors a little bit earlier to assault this location, I think would have been a big deal. Um, yeah, and basically take orange out of the game. Now all of a sudden, orange can't pressure as much as they did back here, because I think they had a bit of pressure there. Um, and ultimately ended up in a large attack down here. Um, but yeah, it gets kind of tricky. It's kind of hard to this side of the map. For your team, this side of the map is harder to play, and for the other team, it's this side of the map. Mainly because the hill is on the side where it is. Like this is on, like this hill is on your team's side, and it's hard for them to push up that kind of hill. Um, same with these hills here. Like this one is harder. The one by you is a little bit more centralized, so it's a little bit easier. But then you have the cliff here, so like it's really not ideal to push there. Um, so yeah, it's kind of like um, ideally this is flat terrain here, and then the enemy hill is here, so that's actually a good spot to push up for your team. Same with theirs, like they can push up here, but they can also defend here. So it's a little bit easier in that sense, but it's also harder because there's less people. So I don't know, it gets tricky. Um, but yeah, for you specifically, taking this out would have been a big deal. Even having some ambassadors being able to assault this a little bit. Now, obviously, Red had some counter ambassadors and stuff like that, but it becomes a skirmish in a way. It becomes a battle. Um, let's see. I'm trying to think if there's any other really big things. Um, yeah, earlier on, I think there's some economy type stuff to work on a little bit. Um, I forget exactly what they were. I think they were all like kind of like not gigantic issues, but not small issues either. I think a lot of it had to do with just having that idle factory. So again, I would highly recommend putting that auto repeat on um, for the units coming out, and then using like a wait for if you want to pause it for stuff. Because generally speaking, you pretty much always want units coming out unless you're building some eco buildings. or you're trying to save up for eco buildings. And I don't know, maybe that's what you're doing. But either way, it just kind of felt like you kept turning it off to kind of just chill for a minute. Um, yeah, I think that's about it. So thanks for watching. I really hope that you learned something from this. And definitely feel free to post questions either in the thread or in the comments. Yeah, that's it. All right. Thanks for watching.